But we welcome now to the conversation Organization Undoing Tax Abuse member Ali Gule, social justice activist Mark Haywood, and governance expert Professor Alex van der Heever. Remember, you can be a part of the conversation tonight. Send us your comments and your questions. The WhatsApp number is 072-110-5584. You can call us on 010-594-6010. Engage with us on X at Newzroom 405. Good to have you, gentlemen. Good evening, and thank you very much for coming on. 1,728 bundles, 41 suppliers linked to one individual, but currently the SIU investigating 207 service providers which traded with the Tembisa Hospital under 4,501 purchase orders that we are talking about here. Kaiser Khanyago says this is a complex investigation that requires further investigation. Why is it that even though there's so much effort, Ali, when I'm talking effort here, work of the SIU, we've had commissions, we are beefing up the NPA, we are told we are getting some corruption laws tightened, but it seems corruption seems to continue unabated, becoming more and more complex, making it harder to detect.
Well, thanks, Thabo, for having me. There can be a number of reasons that can be attributed to that. Amongst others, we have seen now what General Mkhwanazi has revealed to us. Probably not because everything can be attributed to that, but we have seen police, high-ranking police, collaborating and working hand in glove with the underworld. That is what Madlanga Commission is all about. However, we still need more. There's a lack of political will. It's in the public space that we have seen.
Yeah.
A good report came out today, but releasing a good report, a good Tembisa Hospital interim report without any prosecution, it means futile. We need to start to walk the talk. A number of officials are involved in corruption. It has been revealed by SIU today, but we need to set examples. Those that are implicated, we need to see them behind bars. Those that are implicated, the officials that are implicated, their assets must be frozen, their accounts must be frozen. If shove come to push, even the pension fund they must get zero. And all the money that will be recouped, all the money that have been involved in Tembisa Hospital must not be returned to the treasury, not to the government, but direct to the hospital. We're talking about 2 billion.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. Each and every rand that has been stolen, it means an extra doctor for the people, it means an extra ambulance, it means service. If you have been to Tembisa yourself, you'll realize that like any other township, Tembisa is serving a lot of unemployed and poor people. This money to them is an issue of bread and butter.
Yeah, indeed.
These 2 billion can save a lot of sick people. We need the money back into the hospital, and probably just that typifies what is happening in other hospitals as well. We may be talking about Tembisa. Probably the same thing is happening elsewhere in our public facility.
Mark, let's bring you in here. I mean, it's 3-4 years on after Babita Deokaran, may his soul rest in peace, would have raised the alarm on this particular matter. We are sitting now, for example, with the Madlanga Commission, where I suppose a decision to disband the task team would have been made a couple of months ago. It's months later that the Lieutenant General in KwaZulu-Natal blew this thing wide open. Should we be grateful that at least there are some good cops still there in the system, Madlanga Commission being the example, or that at least we are able, through the SIU, to come up with such investigations? Are these things indicating to us that we are improving in our investigative capacity, but also in the work that we're trying to do to deal with corruption?
Well, I think today's SIU report should be welcomed by everybody. It's a huge investigation. Advocate Andy Matibe stressed a number of times how complex this investigation is. And bringing out these details and these facts and naming names and quantifying the corruption is something that probably wouldn't happen in many countries around the world. So that is welcome, and it is welcome that we appear to be going through the motions. But as Ali was saying before me, the problem is that between the reports and the commissions and the investigations and actual action and actual consequence for acts of corruption, there is a huge gulf. And I think many of the people who engage in this scale of corruption know that when they enter into it, that the probabilities of ultimate prosecution are quite small. And the SIU, has issued tens and tens of reports into corruption in the COVID period, before the COVID period. They've probably made thousands and thousands of recommendations for disciplinary inquiries, for referrals to the National Prosecuting Authority, etc. How many of those have actually been carried forward, brought to a conclusion, and acted on is another question entirely. So the problem is that impunity is still deeply embedded in the system.
Yeah.
And for as long as that impunity is embedded in the system, then people will take chances to steal at an industrial level, as we've heard about today.
Yeah. Prof, does the involvement of syndicates add an extra layer of complexity to this question of governance? Normally we would speak about politicians being inept or politicians siphoning money for political campaign. We'll come back to that in a moment. But does the fact that now we are learning that there are actually criminal syndicates, but even at a higher level, cartels, which could also include international players that are undermining governance at our institutions, does it add a layer of complexity?
Well, I think the complexity is being allowed to grow because the absence of accountability allows people to become more brazen. So when you see syndicates operating, you're seeing that the problem has become widespread. People can essentially cooperate at a large scale without any consequences at all. And I think you have to look at the scale of this. And I have a number of concerns about the briefing today, because part of what they briefed us today on was they showed the difference between Tembisa Hospital's budget and actual expenditure over a 5-year period. And over 3 years of that period, the expenditure levels were between 3 and 4 times the allocated budget. And only from about 2022-23 was there some sort of containment. And that tells me that this is after the assassination.
Yeah.
This tells me that the Gauteng Department of Health is either completely ignorant of their job, that they allow an expenditure blowout of that level to occur for so long and take absolutely no action. And when I see that, I know why there are syndicates. Because I ran the budget for the Gauteng Department of Health in the late 1990s. And I wouldn't have had a cost blowout like this longer than a month. They allowed it to extend for 4 years.
Yeah.
So that means that the top management of the Gauteng Department of Health, the provincial treasury and the national treasury, all of whom have this data and this information, none of them took any action. Nobody was sufficiently curious to actually look at what's going on here. Who are the contractors?
Yeah.
Nobody actually blacklisted anybody that could have been blacklisted from 2021 onward. They could have been basically put on a blacklist. No, nothing. Now they're going to put people on a blacklist. So I'm really concerned about why the process is so slow, why the reactions of the Department of Health are so slow, because you don't require the SIU to manage your budgets.
Yeah, yeah.
So that means that the Department of Health is either completely corrupt or completely incompetent. The provincial government is incapable of actually managing its provincial Department of Health. And they basically just watch.
Is it just the Department of Health that is at that level here, or is the entire fiscal and financial sector governance at fault here? Because you get split billing, you get compliance issues when it comes to a company that one individual registers 41 times using the same address, or maybe not. But there are no systems that alert even at that level to say, hold on, what is this activity that is going on here? Could this be illicit activity?
There were systems. So Babita Deokaran spotted them. This was amateurish stuff. This actually isn't hard to spot. Babita Deokaran spotted everybody who was announced today were in her report. So that was in 2021. So the issue is that she saw it and she immediately recommended a forensic investigation. When she was assassinated, the forensic investigation was squashed. No forensic investigation took place. So this is, you have to ask, why did that happen? So on the one hand, there's the information on expenditure generally.
Yes.
And then there is the actual transactions which he had analyzed and for which there was no curiosity or follow-up.
Yeah.
It is inconceivable that this doesn't go right to the top. So this is where I'd say I have a real concern about today's presentation, where there is an attempt to spin this as if it was low-level officials. This is not low-level officials. The reason that we have syndicates is because there's high-level protection for what's going on. And that's the reason it grows. And there needs to be a full investigation so that we get to the people at the top.
Yeah. Mark, I noted you. Let me take a break. I'll come back to you in a moment and get what you wanted to add there. Well, we'll continue after the break. Send us your comments and your question on WhatsApp 072-110-5584. Call us on 010-594-6010. Otherwise, on X at Newzroom 405. Back with you. The Newsfeed PM Late Edition continues. And of course, following that interim report by the SIU, who say that the investigation is still continuing because of the complex nature that it represents. Well, we're having a conversation now as to what needs to happen. What should we be calling for now that we know what has taken place at the Tembisa Hospital? Richard is calling us from Johannesburg. Richard, good evening. Good to have you.
Good evening to you, the listeners, as well as your panelists.
Go ahead, Richard. What do you think should happen here? We are trying, despite the ongoing efforts. Corruption continues. It evolves. It becomes trickier and trickier, making it harder to detect.
Well, look, I think today was a turning point in South Africa. We've actually had the commission touching a junction where the SIU is featuring as well. But what most South Africans would have picked up today is that when the Lieutenant General Khumalo spoke, he was questioned about one cartel or one syndicate or multiple syndicates or cartels, and he said one. And unfortunately, he mentioned Tembisa Hospital, but he didn't mention the same key players that the SIU mentioned today. 2 billion rand is stolen. The CFO loses her life. And the head of intelligence still hasn't picked that up. I mean, you can clearly see that the multiple dynamics in this cartel or this syndicate, but our intelligence service or our sub-service is not on point. When Babita raised the flag 3 years ago, the head of intelligence automatically should have come into that space. We can't be having a commission 3 years down the line about Mahanga having issues with infiltration, whereas Babita already reported Babita's dead, 2 billion's gone, and now we find ourselves back at the same juncture. The same people, Kat Mahlala, the same people that he had mentioned, is the same people that Babita mentioned 3 years ago. The only difference is she's lost her life already.
Richard, appreciate you. That's Richard in Joburg. Chiridzi, you're in Midrand. You can weigh in also. Good evening. Welcome. Go ahead.
How are you?
I'm well. Hope you're well too.
Good. Yes. Actually, I'm just disturbed by the timing of the SIU. To say all along what was holding their work, and for them to come and report on what happened in Tembisa. And why now do they come out in the middle of the Mukwanazi allegation and the Madlanga Commission. So are they also part of the institution that Mukwanazi is busy saying that they are rotten? And now they just feel that, look, we have been caught out. Let's just go out there and pretend to the public that we as the SIU can be trusted and the public can trust that we can do the work and fight corruption. Because I think it is one thing for us as the public to say we are happy about our institution like the SIU. And I think from today and what is happening with the Babita Deokaran scandal that happened in Tembisa, this is a spit in South Africans' face to say, why did you take so long to give us this information? What was happening? Can someone from the SIU, is it Tate Khanyago, can he come and tell us what was the hold up with this simple report and information?
All right, Chiditz. It could well be something that is explained maybe by the complexity of the investigation. I don't speak for them, but it's certainly something that we need to put to them. Here's what you're saying on WhatsApp. For as long as the SIU is targeting the low-ranking officials and allowing the real masterminds who take decisions and issue instructions to get away with it, then we must forget about fighting corruption. That's Tembisa there. Adonima saying, let the Minister of Health investigate corruption taking place at the National Department of Health, which is known by many, and nothing is being done there, followed by provincial offices and districts. Fezile, lack of proper governance, poor lack of integrity and patriotism in the leadership of this country has led to mismanagement and looting of public funds. Appreciate your thoughts. Keep them coming. Mark, let's bring you back to this question. The SIU says the investigation uncovered 15 at least current and former officials within the Gauteng government of Department of Health and Tembisa Hospital who were deeply involved in corrupt activities, including money laundering to the tune of 122 million. He says, although these are mostly low-level employees who manipulated the procurement processes, they are able, in their position, to bypass internal controls and facilitate larger-scale fraud. What does that mean about, we are talking about a national dialogue. Should we be having a more national scale conversation about reforms to public procurement?
Yes, we should. We absolutely certainly should. And there are easily available solutions to make public procurement more open, more accessible. There are ways to allow us, the public, to see expenditure out of health departments literally as the payments are made. During COVID-19, the Gauteng government and several other provincial governments issued monthly what they called expenditure disclosure reports, where every single transaction, how much it amounted to and who it went to, was listed. And it was possible for journalists, it was possible for activists to look at those reports and to question the expenditure. And as a result of those reports, we were able to expose some major corruption that was going on. Not surprisingly, about 7 or 8 months after the provincial government started publishing those reports, they ceased publishing those reports and have not published them ever since. They could reinstitute something like that probably overnight, because as Professor van der Neerwe has said, the Gauteng Treasury, the Gauteng Health Department, has all of this information at its fingertips. So there's really no great mystery about the modus operandi that is being used to thieve. But the couple of your callers, and Alex was starting to talk about it, have pointed to one omission of what came out today, which is that the SIU named, and thankfully they did, the syndicates and the people involved in the syndicates. They named Thabo as, well, they didn't give names, but they said there are these 15 officials. But all of these 15 officials actually are from, as far as I can see from what Advocate Matibi told us, are actually from Tembisa Hospital. At a level of management in Tembisa Hospital, and a lot of clerks and a couple of nurses. What's missing is senior officials in the Gauteng Health Department. We know that people like Hangwani Maumela is a very politically connected person in Gauteng province. We've heard even of his relations with the former Minister of Police. We know that Babita Deokaran, when she uncovered these suspicious transactions, the first thing that she did was forward it to her senior, Lerato Madjo, in the Gauteng Health Department, the only person at that point who knew what Babita had uncovered. And yet we don't see any of these names in today's reports. And there has to be enablers, as various people are saying. There have to be people who are willing to close their eyes to allow this type of thing to take place, and possibly to do more than just close their eyes, possibly also to get certain very clear benefits out of acting as enablers. Now, let me say one last thing to the credit of the SIU, perhaps. They did stress that this was an interim report. They did stress that there's a significant further investigation to be undertaken. They did say that when they talked about the small fish, it doesn't necessarily mean that there are no big fish involved. But it's certainly a major question mark that we have to pose over what we know so far in this incident.
Ali, are we also putting, of course, what we heard from the SIU report to what is coming out of the Madlang Commission, as you've already put it yourself? And part of what we're hearing from the testimony today is that the influence is deep, it's broad in terms of its spectrum, in terms of areas that it affects, but it has also penetrated the political sphere. Now, the Premier came out once again and reiterated this call for audits of public servants, living standards. I mean, do you take him seriously about those audits?
Look, it's not about taking him seriously or not. One thing we are notorious of in this country are good political statements. I'm not sure if these are genuine statements or we're spinning some things. Yeah. We are good with commissions. We're good with policies and laws, including a constitution of our country, probably the best in the world, they say. You know what is corroding the trust and the confidence of the government with the ordinary people on the ground is whereby we spend a lot of money on this commission and thereafter the findings and recommendation, nothing happens. People always question that. You hear from your viewers, now and then, it always comes up. As long as we talk without action, people will just take that as a talk show. But just to quickly add something, remember something that was not even mentioned today. There has been 2 fires at these notorious Tembisa hospitals. And these fires, like ghost fires, only happened where the fires that are being investigated by SIU are kept. But nothing was said. This is a parallel criminality that occurred at the hospitals.
Interfering with investigations.
Yes. Therefore, I agree with the sentiment that is expressed by everyone, that these low-ranking officials that are now being scapegoated are low-hanging fruits. Even if these officials are involved, but before you go to the higher authority at the Department of Health in Gauteng, there are leadership and management within the hospitals. Why did the management not pick up these shenanigans? That means the road goes much deeper. And in any case, this department has always been in the news for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah. Prof, I mean, are we... of course, we need the institutional integrity and we need to strengthen that, no doubt. But are we looking at the low-hanging fruit there? Maybe the real issue that we should be looking at, considering, as you mentioned, there are higher officials who are politically connected, maybe even politicians themselves. Talk about campaign financing regulations that need reform. Because most of these monies, they get channeled either to pay for electioneering and political campaigns, and then of course lifestyle that is affluent and so on and so forth. But is that another area that maybe we should tap into and look in?
Well, that can be looked at, but the first issue you do is you close the holes in the public system itself. And I can make the point that the implausibility of having 2 billion rand flow out of a single hospital and having nobody notice at the senior levels of the department is unbelievable. It is quite literally unbelievable. And so the issue of lifestyle audits, that's way after the crime has been committed. You pick this stuff up in the way you manage supply chain, the way you monitor expenditure. You pick it up on a monthly basis, how transparent it is, the more people, more eyes looking on it. All of those things kill the corruption at source. That's how you deal with it. So you don't wait until the crimes are committed and then go through some long, windy process to perhaps discover who was, and let the trails go cold. So the issue about this, and I think it really does have to be made clear, this wasn't hard to see.
Yes.
This was not complex. This was simple. The directorships of these companies and the way they were set up in an amateurish manner because nobody really was worried that anybody was going to follow this up. So in fact, it was really obvious. If anybody was going to investigate, they were going to get caught. It really didn't take Sherlock Holmes. So the issue about this is accountability at source, immediacy, and you manage your systems there. That you get right. And you don't allow the public sector to be the piggy bank for corrupt politicians who then crow about, we found some low-level staff who involved in this. No, it wasn't them only. They will be involved, but they are the fall guys. The guys that are behind this are have the ability to lock down the accountability structures. We've got the laws, but once you've got too many people that are appointed around the accountability structures who can basically pull investigations and slow things down, you have a problem. You go right back to the start of the Babita Deokaran investigation. The Hawks people who investigated the killers, the hitmen, arrested them. Who was taken off that investigation? So that really good team who arrested those people immediately was suddenly stopped and transferred off the case. Why do you think that happened? So all of a sudden, all the investigations of the people, the killers, that could go right up to the top, immediately stopped. The Hawks for 7 months doesn't bother to investigate Babita Deokaran's laptop or Madio's cell phone or Babita. They don't do it. All of that's pulled. Who can do that? That's not some little official or clerk at Tembisa Hospital.
All right.
And then we have to look elsewhere. And if people aren't basically looking at the people who are able to do that, then we are not going to cure that problem. But we can cut this off at source by having proper accountability mechanisms, full transparency that is immediate and immediate follow-up. But you cannot have corrupt people as MECs, cannot have corrupt people as heads of department who are in a position to employ networks of people who can close these systems down. That's what we have to do.
I want to pick up at that immediate follow-up in a moment when we return from the break. We'll wrap up this conversation after the break with our panel. Do stay with us. Back on the Newsfeed PM late edition, we continue to engage. We've got Altaz Ali Gule, we've got social justice activist Mark Haywood, as well as governance expert Professor Alex van der Heever with us. And of course, we're engaging you on the line. Let's go to Cape Town. We've got John. John, good evening. Welcome. I'm well, and I hope you're well too. Go ahead.
Good evening, sir. Thank you for taking my call. I am actually phoning with a grave concern of a lot of disappointment, frustration, and also as Black people who fought very hard to bring South Africa to a liberated state, but finding ourselves in the right opposite of what we thought we compromised and sacrificed our life for. This is proof and testimony to the fact that people who have been making claims that South Africa is a mafia state were indeed very honest and truthful to that. A mafia state is where there is a corroboration. They're working together between your top government officials, your top politicians and administrators for the purpose of ripping off the state. And who tends to become the victims? It is the poorest of the poor. And this is a manifestation. And we find ourselves very much pointed. And many of us have always been asking questions of who are the actual beneficiaries of the DEE or triple DEE. That tells you that DEE and triple D and whatever form of DEE has always been handpicked of people behind closed doors as to should be the beneficiaries. And who benefits behind decision-making of handpicking?
Right. John in Cape Town, thank you very much. Got to leave it there because of time. Thompson Baloyi saying 2 billion is a breakthrough by the SIU. This is serious. It's long. People are involved in criminal activities. Thanks for the SIU for such a big tender scandal probe. Anonymous in Mabopane, good evening. This government doesn't take us seriously. It's not like they didn't know this kind of corruption was going on. Since the assassination of Babita, we are not taken seriously here. They went so low to sell this country to the lowest bidders who killed people on a daily basis. They should be ashamed of calling themselves freedom fighters. That's Anonymous in Mabopane. All right, Mark, just your final thought on that particular aspect. I mean, the immediate follow-up, seemingly not something that we are known for, right? Are there systems up to the task? I mean, we've got dedicated task teams that are tackling specific forms of criminal activity, but are they up to the task in terms of being able to immediately follow up on whistleblower information?
No. Simple. They're not. And I don't believe, arising from today's report, that we will be protected from another corruption scandal in Gauteng in a few months or a few years' time, unless there are deep structural governance, oversight, etc. improvements. And I don't believe that there is the will to clean up Gauteng Health Department. So I agree, it's a very important day. I salute and congratulate what the SIU has done so far. I think it's important, but I don't end this day feeling any more confidence that we are going to bring this scale of corruption to an end.
Ali, I know you're saying take their pension fund, especially those who are involved, but what needs to happen now to ensure that going forward, public servants act with integrity and accountability?
Look, we need to see action more than anything. We had too many speeches. We need to see action. This report that was being released today took 3 years. And like one of the panelists has said, most of the information or some of the information, they were already in their possessions. In fact, if there's anything, Babita was failed by the employer. Because if it wasn't for Jeff Weeks, who took her laptops and scratched deeper, she reported the wrongdoing. In fact, she was doing what she was supposed to do. Most of the information is within the government. They can just pass that to law enforcement agencies. While we're talking, some people should be up and down inside the court facing the consequences of their criminals. We must act. More than any other thing, while we're talking, while there are Matlanga Commission and other commission and investigations, there should be action. People should be in orange overalls. Let's do action. Only action will bring confidence back to the voters, to the taxpayers. The money that is being stolen does not belong to the government, it belongs to the taxpayers. Someone must be held accountable. Criminals, wrongdoers must go to jail. Simple as that.
Prof, greater degree of enforcement at source. I mean, for example, one of the things that would have happened here, one of the providers would, I don't think it was smart, as you put it, anybody would have picked it up, but the invoices were below 500,000 or just around there, and so they didn't need a lot of approval. A CEO could have just approved those without going to tender. I mean, if we are saying let's strengthen systems at source, what should happen to something of that nature?
Well, it's important to note that Babita Deokaran, sitting at the central head office, blocked those transactions, 100 million rands worth. That's why she was shot. And then they were immediately passed through, not at Tembisa Hospital. So that's important to note that was head office. So the issue is it's easy to identify. The structures are there. If you've got protected structures that are overseeing procurement, full transparency, you will deal with this stuff quite easily. But if you've got a protection record operating from the top, then you have a real problem. It concerns me that some of the so-called recommendations that we've had on how to deal with this are utter fluff, death penalties, nonsense, or
lifestyle audits, yeah.
Lifestyle audits. This is nonsense. These aren't real measures. The real measures are you get your accountability structures to work, and then they work immediately. So then that's basically what you need. So these people who are benefiting from this have no interest in closing those holes in the system. So it worries me when I see people at the top who show complete ignorance of the required interventions to actually deal with this matter. And unfortunately, it goes all the way up to national government as well, because none of these people were blacklisted. Over 3 years, nobody blacklisted. And when you ask National Treasury, no, well, it's got to be the head of department who requests, the accounting officer. If the accounting officer is implicated, the last thing they're going to do is recommend blacklisting. So the point is, you can blacklist these people from day one. You flag them, deal with them, investigate them. All of the information that Babita Deokaran could see can be seen by National Treasury. But it took Jeff Wicks to actually reveal what was going on. So this is the problem, is that the machinery of government, in which we are spending billions of rands to run administrations, we're blind. We're fooled by the dumbest of procurement fraud. And that's really where we've got to basically look. That only happens when it's from the top. So yeah, we've got to clean the top. And we have to make our procurement systems and our expenditure systems fully transparent to the public. There is no reason for this information to be hidden. There's no nuclear bombs being created in a line item. This stuff needs to be made available to everybody, and then you will find that this stuff goes away. You want to kill vampires, put them in the sunlight.
Prof, we're out of time. Much appreciated. Mark, thank you very much for coming through. And Ali, thank you very much for coming through as well, and yourself for joining this conversation tonight. What's making news next on the Newsfeed PM Late Edition when we continue? Stay with us.